On order.
Chowski,
Here.
Thomas,
Here.
all 4 members present.
Okay. For any items on the agenda, we'll now have courtesy of the floor. Okay. So nobody, at this point, nobody's, okay. All right. Item 4, project discussions. Dr. Omer will give an update on the HVAC ESSER project.
Just so that the board is aware, this committee's aware, I will have on your update this week the final language after the GISA amendment was approved. I did send it off to Chris Kenyon over our break. He has signed off on the legal language of it and said that he has no concerns. So it was approved. It's just the language in writing of what the board has agreed to. I can, now that the board has approved it and Chris Kenyon has signed off on it, Ben and I will sign it as the superintendent and board secretary, and that will be finalized. Mark and I have had conversations with Site Logic in terms of scheduling, and they are moving forward with getting our schedule in terms of when they'll be moving things on site and getting ready for summer work. So that's my update on that. I did have on this agenda a conversation with the committee about prioritizing next projects. I know that we have talked about projects that we know we would like to have on our list, and you have a list from Hunt in the feasibility study of what needs to be addressed. I guess Mark and I are looking for some direction on how you would like to see us take what Hunt has done and put it into manageable pieces for you all. I know that we did as a group prioritize HVAC work already as a priority number 1. And we also, as a committee, reported to the board that building envelope would be priority number 2, and that priority number 3 would be athletic fields. So I guess I'm looking for, I know we've already identified those 3 priorities as a committee, and we did report those to the board, looking for direction on, would you like Mark and I to pull those 3 things out of the Hunt study? What we can do, and you'll see this in a minute when we talk about parking lots, Mark and I could take those 3 items, pull them out into separate documents, and give them to you as a committee so you can see what each area entails as a group. So for example, I'll just pass this around because it'll make more sense. Mark and I put together for you, we went to the Hunt study, and remember when they presented to us, all of this is their study. Mark and I have a copy of the site electronically. So what we were able to do was go in and pull from all 5 buildings what was identified as asphalt and paving and parking lots. So what Mark did for you was we took a printout from their site so that you can see what they've identified as paving work that needs to be done. And then Mark starred their report because he then pulled out from what they said needed to be done. For the report, the second document I'm passing around was what Mark had presented to this committee before. That was just a location, a square footage or square yard, and a cost. So what I'm showing you is we have access to the Hunt report that we can recategorize things and just run out as a report separate items. So what we did was take all those separate items for paving and print them out on one. What I'm suggesting is we do the same thing for HVAC, building envelope, athletic fields separately, and then you could start to get an idea as a committee of what each area entails, and we can start to prioritize from there. Does that work for you as a committee? All 5 buildings. Yeah, we can check off, and what I did was, we have the ability to go in as something is done and mark it and say, don't include this, so we can pull those things out.
I want numbers, cost from what's left, not what we already. Them at the end of the, you can pull out by building, I'm assuming.
Yep, these,
You can put those at the end of
these are actually noted which building on the left. One of the reasons why Mark and I wanted you to see their report is because it includes some more detail about what they intended to do with each of those paving areas. So for example, the admin building is that first line. On Mark's report, it just says admin building and a total cost. They have noted that that is a reconstruction and a full depth remodel of that parking lot. So you'll see the differences in some place. In the next one, at Avis, they talk about the bus loop, and it says mill and overlay. So one of the things that you heard Mr. Pryor mentioned is sometimes pavement can be taken up and reclaimed and put back down. So they were that was what was cost at Avis, but they didn't cost that at the admin building because the parking lot is beyond our ability to do just that simple repair. So I gave you that so you can see what level of detail is in the Hunt report, but I wanted you to see that so you can see, go ahead.
We have no asphalt at the middle school or college.
Yeah, so it's, Mary, there should be a second page to this
Oh,
report.
do I?
Have one.
Maybe, oh, here. They were not collated. Here you go. Here's the second page. That's why. I thought there was an awful lot of copies of that. Yep, so now you have, in the 2 pages, you have all 5 buildings. So you can see where they actually broke down. Some of them have ceiling, some of them just have an overlay, some of them have milling and repavement, some of them have full depth reconstruction. That will give you an idea of the detail you'll get in a report. What we'll do before you then is we'll get you one that looks like that for HVAC, one separately for building envelope, and then one separately for athletic complexes. And then as a committee, we can start to prioritize those areas.
Remind me what the stars were. Yeah.
So, go ahead, Mark.
Paving projects. They're,
The asterisks are just paving projects.
they are, and they correlate with what I presented last meeting. All those costs on the right-hand column are costs from that recommendation list from Hunt Engineering. I just wanted to give a clearer detail of those costs and what work was involved with it. I think there was maybe,
JSASD, and they say. If it's got asphalt, or is it concrete, or is it grass?
I think what we were gearing towards was roadways and parking lots. When we were talking, I think how this all started was replacing paved areas, driving parking areas. I think with JSE, what number is that, Mary?
Right here.
It's,
This one.
it's under the Hunt report.
Right in the middle.
Small playground?
The large playground.
There's small playground and large playground, 280, 280.
That wouldn't necessarily be it would be a paving project, but they're calling that out as a safety surface, would be a different surface than regular paving. What I was focused on was, like I said, where this all derived from was parking lots and roadways, and that's kind of where we got started with it. There's a lot of things on here that go with paving, concrete work, things like that, but I tried to stick with the paving part of it.
So my understanding is when you said the envelope things are on priority 2, right? But priority 1 includes a lot of HVAC,
Mhm.
but I forget now, I don't have my detail. Does it include other than HVAC? It does, I think.
Priority 1, should be all HVAC. So
Okay.
we will pull out boilers, exhaust fans, unit ventilators. And then priority 2, building envelope, will pull out things like roofs, windows, doors. And you'll actually see a detail like this.
Yes.
So you'll know what is in each group.
So, for instance, the HVAC list will look like this, but
Mhm.
everything will be listed from Hunt. But you'll star the ones that you think are, yep.
Was that, any other questions about that? Mark and I played around with this, and I thought gave us a good example of what you'll see and how we can pull and I don't want to say manipulate, but put in a report exactly what we're looking for.
Or most of these priority 2, the asphalt?
I don't think they have this yet. It says priority 1 there, but I think right now the way Hunt set it up is everything
Oh, yeah, I see.
everything is in there as a priority 1 because we have the ability to make that change.
Gotcha. All right, that sounds like a good plan. When do you think that next piece will be able to be completed?
Well, we can pull that together for the next meeting or send it out ahead of time prior to the next meeting. I'll do that. Mark and I can pull that together into, will be 3 separate reports, and we can send it out to all of you to look at.
Well, have we decided that we're even doing any of these paving jobs right now?
But we're not talking about, I'm talking about, this is just an example of what it would look like.
Okay.
I'm saying before the next meeting, I'll give you 3 reports, 1 on HVAC, 1 on building envelope, and 1 on athletic fields. So you can see what Hunt says needs to be done in each of those 3 areas.
But at
Gives
this
us
point,
the
administration-
ability to prioritize
Yeah.
what we feel needs done at what certain time.
Administration's really gonna do a further prioritization so that we can react to that as a committee, and then eventually it'll go to the board.
Okay.
And I handed this out, but I want to move on to parking lots. This really is just an update from the last conversation that we had about parking lots. And you're right, Mrs. Petrossi, we didn't say we were doing anything with parking lots, but Mark and I wanted you to see, he gave you this sheet that looks like an Excel document that just has the area noted and a cost. And he's connecting it to this Hunt report so you can see where, because the conversation was, well, can we just go in, mill it up, reclaim the asphalt, put it back down? You'll see as you look through this, they have in more detail. They do have that in some areas because, and I'll let Mark speak for what he heard, but we talked to contractors about the fact that some places that would work and some places that would not work. And Mark, do you want to explain why that is?
Yeah, I think the last meeting, there was a lot of question on, I think it sounded like we were just gonna demo every parking lot we have and put all new down. And that's why I wanted you to see this. That's not the case. There is some full lot or full depth reconstruction, and it's all called out on this list. But there are many areas that are basically mill and overlaying. What that is they take 2, 3, not quite 3 inches, but off the top layer, the bottom layer stays in place and new asphalt gets laid on top of that. Typically, those millings can either be recycled or they can be discarded. I mean, it depends on the quality of them. You don't know what the quality of them are until they get remixed with things that need to be mixed with them as far as. It was.
Mhm.
It was. I think he was referring to reclaiming, like a full depth reclaiming, and I don't want to get into this a whole lot, but full depth reclaiming would require, like, let's say the front of this building, it would change the height of the amosite where it meets the building, so it really wouldn't work for, unless this was all dug down prior to that, and then cost effectively, it's probably not. I mean, I've talked to a couple different pavement contractors since the last meeting regarding that. And typically for a stretch of highway or something, that's a perfect scenario, but for buildings that you're trying to meet up with the existing grade doesn't work out as good as what is thought about, I think. But what I really, what,
Downsizing the parking lot too.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Such a big job.
yeah, and Brian went over a lot of what I was gonna go over with the cost of everything and the detail of everything. It's not just full depth reconstructing everywhere in the district. It's called out specifically for every site that I gave dollar amounts for, pretty close to what will be done or what's proposed to be done.
So, excuse me, the cost, if I understand what milling is, it doesn't, if we can't use any of the recycled material, that's not built in here. In other words, it's not built in that we're gonna use some recycled.
There's nothing built into this that
Good.
we're gonna save all
Save,
our asphalt.
right.
We grind up and reuse it on site.
Right,
What typically will be done is the company will take it back to their site and probably recycle it into somebody else's asphalt eventually. But new asphalt would typically be brought in, so we know the quality of it.
gotcha. Any other questions on that? So we covered B and C. Item D, Johnson House and High School entrance.
So the last conversation that we had, Mark and I left with the job of getting a quote for an alternative to a fence, which we talked about trees. So the first paper that you're getting is one quote we got just so that the board had an idea of what that would look like in terms of cost. And Mark, remind me, what was the quote for the fence?
For this 347 foot, it's around $13,000 for a 6-foot high chain link fence. And that is, I had a map I printed out for everyone to show you where that fence would be.
Got it. There. It's going around.
Going like this?
Correct. I think everybody.
Oh, do
Yep,
they?
I sent
Oh, okay.
them that way.
Okay,
You'll have to share with him. So
I see it.
what Mark, the map you got indicates the 347 feet, which we did discuss the fact that last time, that is what was quoted for the fence. So the quote that we got for trees matches the fence quote that we had. I know we did have a conversation about potentially not doing that whole area, or it was totally up to whatever the committee would like to recommend. But now you have an idea of difference between fence and shrubbery and location.
What is this here? That's
Mhm.
the- Oh,
Soccer field.
That
I only
that
care
is where
about
the
fence
fence was
here.
quoted. It doesn't, I'm not saying it has to be
Huh?
there, but we quoted the trees, the shrubs in the same spot so that you would be able to compare costs of fence versus shrubs.
who owns this over here?
I'm not sure who-
It, she asked, but it's the same,
It would be the same chain link fence that's at the track complex, only it'd be 6-foot high.
But why do you want this section here done? Because there's People can't park all along here, right?
They can't park over there, but I don't know about any other issues from that end.
So that's the right side or?
I mean, yeah, to me, I'd only want to have this done here. Because people, this is where they park the cars and put things up against there or completely on the our property and things. So I'm not sure.
That would,
Our line anymore, not necessarily.
no, that is our property line, yes, and we can put a fence directly on that property line. So if we only went the one,
The water company here.
the water,
We're up to mine up too far.
there's a house that was on the other side of that, they just recently tore it down just in the last couple of weeks. But if we decided to just do the side between the house and the garage, it would probably, the fence would be, I just did quick math, it's around $5,200. That's only about 150 feet.
So we did have a conversation at the last committee meeting about only doing that one
Right.
stretch. But the reason that we got a quote for the shrubs to do the whole thing was because we wanted to be able to compare the shrub quote to the original fence quote that we got.
Okay,
If that makes sense.
yeah.
I guess another thing to consider, although it's probably insignificant, is if you put shrubs in, there's a little bit of a maintenance as far as,
I was gonna say the same thing.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I had it quoted with dyed brown mulch underneath of it, but that's only so long till we're in there cleaning it up.
That house is gone. Is that for parking for soccer?
We would love to.
I know they need. Couple too late to go down. Don't really need it. Well, it will be more convenient. I'm okay with the time. I could see the process of more money, but I'm specifically
Over time.
maintain arguments, around people having money. And I remember when I went to high school, how out of
Yeah, they grow fast and you don't keep them under control, they go.
I don't have a problem.
So we will need, in order to take that to the full board, we'll get an updated fence quote that will be just that section. And then we will take, is it okay to take that updated quote, which we're assuming is gonna be around 50, what did I hear you
We
say?
talking,
Just the north
Here.
to south section.
yeah, around $5,000 to $6,000.
You're okay as a committee with that going to the full board? Okay. And then along those same lines, we did discuss last time the storage shed inside the stadium that would go on that northeast corner. And Mark, if you want to explain what we've figured out so far with that.
Yeah, and what that it will be is a garage kit that we bought in the past for CTE classes to construct. Price is, I just got another updated quote today. It's a 24 by 32 metal building, would have 2 garage doors for soccer and track, both to have storage. We also store the track mats and all that stuff in there during the off season. We would pour the concrete slab. More than likely, my staff would do that. If any of the CTE classes would be interested, that'd be great. But with all that said, the building, the kit itself is $11,612. That includes the drawings that we would need for the township. And we need 10 yards of concrete, about 15 ton of stone. I threw some cost in there for some equipment if we have to level the ground out at all, and some form lumber, The total cost on everything complete would be $17,000.
And what'd you say the size was, 24 by?
24 by 32.
Yep.
I do, and if we go any more than that, I think it would really bump the cost up a lot. I really think, that's much more room than they have right now. So I think it,
The equipment in there and all season and
Yeah.
the stuff that they're using.
it'll be much better for,
Easier.
yeah, I mean, even getting equipment started for the season, it'll be much better for us to get it out there. Right there. I mean, like the back of the soccer field house right now, there's javelins and all that kind of stuff. That stuff can be organized in a building like this much better.
How are the garage doors, or like they're at either end, or are they
They're
side
on the
by
gable-
side?
They're on the gable end. It'd be the pitched roof side of the building. So it basically can drive straight through the whole building.
Oh, okay.
We talked about maybe partitioning it off inside, but see how it goes. And in fact, we have to build a wall. That's not the end of the world either. Inside the building.
So again, where is that going to be located?
It would be over about here in that
Yep.
pretty much dead space in that stadium.
Inside the,
Or is
yep.
it over here?
It doesn't show it on here.
Like when you come in the gate, the bleachers are on your right, it would be far over to your left.
There's plenty of room there for it.
Well, and we even thought if we needed to, it would work because there would be a garage door in each end. So if stuff needed to be kept separate or out of the reach of somebody else, it could be separated if we needed to separate it. But if not, then it allows us to have different things in there in different seasons. We did discuss that, and I think I updated the committee at the last meeting that is something that CTE can do. Mr. Keenan and I already had that conversation. The teacher's okay with that. It can definitely be done by CTE students with maintenance support. So there really isn't a labor cost other than what you're seeing from Mark is materials and
Right, the kit.
purchases. Questions about that?
Go on, go to the press box, Mark.
We're waiting for a donation.
So Mark has you have an active quote. I don't remember how long that's good for.
I just got it today, and I think it's good for 30 days. And
Yeah,
that's a CoStar's vendor too, so that makes that even better.
yeah, I would say that
You,
we should recommend that to the board then too. Because
I can put that on May 9th. I guess my last question is, the fence and the shed, would you recommend those two expenses? We're at about, let me do the math here. We're at about $23,000 come out of capital projects.
When do we anticipate that would this be a summer project or,
This building,
well, the fence and the shed?
the fence could happen fairly soon. The building, I would really like to have the CTE department help out, so I'll have to work. I can't answer for them right
It-
now, but
That would probably have to
Be in the fall. It could be something they could do in the fall and have everything in it for next winter.
yeah, I'd like to get the drawings to the instructor so he can maybe incorporate that, some things he's doing and get ready for it. Because they've built them before. They've built 2 other garages like that on district property and Yep, and then there's one at Avis too, that was a little more challenging for them because they had to transport kids out there to work, and then it got to be winter time. We ended up finishing it up for them,
You
just,
put any electricity in?
no. But there's no plans to at this moment. But I mean, it's nothing that there's nothing near there to, but
Until we get the poles.
as,
We get the new poles wherever they're putting the new poles.
as things evolve up there, I think
It could be.
definitely no problem.
I don't mean, because, you know, it starts really early versus.
Yeah, my vision of that would be once there's lights there, then we would put lights because they would be there at that certain time of the day. Typically now, there's not a lot of activity up there in the morning or after dark unless we rent lights.
Well, my thought on whether we take it out of capital project fund is, I'd like to preserve those funds for big ticket items. And the fact that we can probably get the fence into out of this year's budget, I would suggest we take it out of contingency. And I don't know whether we have to make a decision on the other one right now.
Both of them are just.
Well, just the fence, because that can be done before June 30. And then we can recommend to the board both pieces, but the funding for the shed could be deferred. Unless we have to, indicate in the recommendation, the funding. But even then, what do we have for contingency, like for next year?
For next year?
Yeah.
I don't believe I thought about removing the contingency for next year, but I don't think I did. I think it's $150,000.
50?
150,000
Okay.
again.
Okay.
I'll confirm it.
Yeah.
Well, and only reason I ask that question is we typically do put that on the agenda item if it's not something that was in the budget. Because then the board is authorizing the expense and the purchase.
On the whole barn or whatever you wanna call it. Work, so then that gives me the opportunity to teach and then.
That would be my suggestion.
Make them two separate items.
Well, I can list it as contingency fund and on the drafted.
No, I'm talking about the fence.
Oh, yep. Oh, they'll definitely be two separate items. Yep. Are you, there'll be two separate items. Are you saying you want,
Fence out of this year's contingency.
right? And I don't think we need to specify on the agenda which year's contingency fund they're coming out of. It'll be a matter of when the purchase is made.
Your contingency fund for this year is actually been overspent.
Can we unspend some of it?
We go plant that special tree. Maybe we need to switch from arborvitae's.
And remind me, that was because of the fobs, right?
Bob's, the space utilization plan, the elevator repair, and there was a small amount for insurance claim at the beginning of the year.
Okay.
So what happens when you overspend the contingency? Oh,
Well, chances are $5,000 to $6,000 this year is not gonna make or break anything. It's just,
I will list it that way on the agenda. And as usual, if it's on the agenda, you can change the motion at the meeting, but you can't add it if it's not on the agenda.
Right.
Okay. No, it's for the 9th. And then the Locust Street paving project, I put this on here last week when I told the whole board I got this phone call from the borough. I haven't not received an update on what the borough has decided to do in terms of paving. I did read the article in the paper that they talked about
Right, I read
multiple
that.
different projects. So I don't know that Locust Street actually has been confirmed as
Right.
one of the projects they're going to do. So I just wanted that to be on our radar as a committee, that if they determine that Locust Street is a street they're going to pave, we may have to respond to that because of the sections of Locust Street that the district put in. They have not decided which streets they're going to pave though. So right now we're just, I believe, in the discussion phase.
Can you share what that means as far as what the district put in?
So on Locust Street, there's two spots. Behind the middle school, there's a lane between the middle school and Locust Street. There is a chunk of pavement that really, I think, is just used for parents at pickup time to park along Locust Street.
Yeah, it just cuts in off of Locust Street into the school and then right back out. It's just kind of a little loop there.
So the cutoff leaf was on the
Yeah.
street.
Right. And then the second thing is the district put in the raised crosswalk.
You can take that out.
Well, that was my response, Mrs. Thomas. When the borough called me and told me that, I said, well, maybe we just don't put it back in.
Right, we don't need that. I don't even see it.
You know, the two of them almost.
It's, yeah. No, I don't know it's
You
there.
feel it before you
Here's-
see it.
See it.
Here's exhibit A, there's B.
Yeah.
A, B.
Yeah.
We're lower the rate. I don't want them to do that.
There we go. Oop, like that when I go over to you.
Well, and I can't, every time I drive over it, I think, I can't imagine the poor people that have to plow this street.
I know, it's a wonder it's not crumpled all up.
And I was tired of that. Oh, I haven't been there that long.
The other part of it is we have one there, but we don't have one on Thompson.
Yeah.
Yeah, people would really love it on Thompson too. I mean, I just don't even see it. Is there even
Okay.
a sign saying
But
it?
but I
Is
I
it?
have not heard back from the borough, and the last I read, they had not actually decided what streets they were going to pave. So I had put that on here the day that he talked to me, but I haven't heard back yet.
Okay.
Well, I think weren't they having a problem too with costs and things,
Mhm.
like stuff, tripling and quadrupling, and that's why I think they're not able to do what they wanted to do.
Paving projects.
Yeah, so,
Any more questions on that? So whenever you find out something, you'll pass it on to.
I'll just keep it on here in
Yep.
case I hear something.
I do have some. Are you going to go to courtesy of the floor then? Okay, because I did have some questions on, can you just tell me, I know that you said we already purchased the boilers, right? They were already purchased, even though we haven't received them, they were purchased, correct? So it's not like we can unpurchase
Right.
them.
That was,
right? It
we
was-
voted on that in December.
Okay, so we actually pay for them and they're,
Well, did we process? Yeah, I thought we processed that purchase order.
You
All right.
purchased 5 boilers, 10 univents, 6 rooftop units,
Okay. I just wanted to make sure because I think at the last meeting when you had said we hadn't received them, that people thought they weren't really purchased
Right.
yet, but
They
we
are
actually
purchased.
have purchased them and paid for them. So it's not like there's nothing we can do with them. I mean, they're ours. Yeah. And then the other thing is the agenda for the capital projects out
It's
there
on
for the
board
public?
docs. Mm-hmm.
I didn't see it. I mean, for the public. I know we have it.
It is now. That was when I was going in and out for it.
Oh, okay.
It should, oh, yeah.
Usually goes up to date with it.
It should be based on the date, but, okay.
All right, John, no. Are you done? Sorry, Nancy, you still have.
Nope, I'm done.
Talking about taking it down, what happened to that?
We have a quote.
I mean, should we take that down before we do the fence? Probably when they're necessarily like on the fence room, we want to take.
It doesn't
Well-
have to be, but, I mean, that'll have to go out to bid for sure.
Okay, okay.
So if we want to do that, we have to get approval to do that.
Edge of that's far enough away from the house, you think, that we wouldn't have to worry about it?
I don't see any problem with that, other than maybe if there's some grading that would need to be done where the fence is now. But yeah, that would have to, the prices I'm getting on that now are that.
Well, should we get moving on that by putting it on Monday's agenda to approve? How many, so you have some bids?
I had one quote. There's
Oh,
not a
one
lot of
quote.
people that do that work in this area. And always working with the same contractor since we started talking about demolishing. I imagine they're all fair. I know what's driving the big cost is landfill cost.
Yeah. I'm just thinking, working backwards, if you want to get the fence done before June 30, and if we have any concern about demolition of the house, should we kind of get that in motion?
I'm not actually concerned about demolition impacting the
Okay.
fence.
That's fine.
But I think if we want to get moving, the thing that needs to happen first is moving of the electrical service. That is not something I think we can or should do until at least school is out, because it will disrupt events in the stadium.
There's a lot that plays into that as well, because if we're looking down the road, what our plans are for the soccer field track complex, then what size service do we want to put in, and where do we want to put it? Like if it change in the field direction or change of anything, it's gonna matter where the actual service ends up being. We're gonna put lights up there, we're gonna have to look at where all that power is gonna be distributed. So, I mean, my guess would be that we would put in a three-phase service, which is Johnson House right now is only a 120 volt service. Contact PP now, find out where the closest three-phase line would have to come from. It would be overhead for the most part, and possibly overhead once it gets closer to the soccer stadium, but temporarily, depending on what we we could pull a 200 amp service over to the bathrooms to get everything back up and running, the house gone, service gone from the house. But I think it's something that we're gonna be changing down the road. Place, I think we can definitely plan, have, put the appropriate area.
While we're doing it, unless.
Yeah, there's just a lot of background work that had to be done for lights, and I know going down that side of the driveway, going down to the high school, I think those driveway lights should be incorporated with that as well, so that's one other thing I have to look at. How we're gonna get all that stuff piped underground to get where it needs to go, and have it in the appropriate spot.
Remind me again, the cost of demolition? Which I know is going up every day. 22 or
Say
26?
23, but I think we're all right in the ballpark.
22 or 26, somewhere in there.
27,000, whatever. What that included was demolition of the house and grading the area flat and hauling in stone, the entire area. It's a parkable parking lot.
So they would take care of the fill and all of that. They salvage everything that they, get everything out of there, all the parts of the house that they.
They typically
They
do. Yeah, well, I mean, if they see they can salvage windows, I know the one specifically, the contractor that I got the quote from, they'll take things. They have a different business that they deal with, they sell windows and doors and reclaim things. After all that stuff.
We get credited for any of that? That's part of their deal.
That would be all part of their
Okay.
documents, papers, removal of house, property, gravel for parking. And this was prior to I talked to the time, and that price was only good till the end of January.
January of 23? January of 23?
Oh. Unforeseen thing that I don't know at the Johnson House, I don't know if the house was there on the district. They purchased the house, I'm not sure if there's anything underground there, I'm not suspecting that there is. But I need to look at how they typically handle this stuff. Little tank or storage tank for sewer, septic, any of that stuff. I don't know if we have any document.
Where is the oil tank now? I don't think.
It's in the basement.
Yeah, I don't think.
I just
Who knows, we would have been moved before we bought it.
I just want to be sure what gets done in case something like that happens. And like I said, documentation.
Oops.
Okay,
What were we doing with the high school entrance? Was there,
That was, I mean, this is all related to high school
okay,
entrance. What I think what I heard was Mark and I need to come back with a plan for the electrical service to that and all, a comprehensive plan for at least we know that it's the correct service going forward for whatever happens in that space.
I started working on some of that stuff. It's hard to put numbers on things. More likely expect a lot of things, so what happened.
right. Now, would you have PP&L come and tell you the best place to put it, or we need to know?
That'll definitely
From
play-
us.
That'll play a big part in it, because wherever that three-phase line comes from, it could be on the other side of the water company, which that's where I think it is, or across the street, or Creek. The only two spots, or down at the other end of the high school. I think there's 3 opportunities there to come from, it's just which one. I don't think the bathroom, consider now that building, I don't know what that will move or not, but if that's decided to stay, that would be. I think the football field, if you walk into the middle school side, service for the football field sits right where the entrance to. Pretty ideal, it's outside. It's not
Yeah.
the best thing.
Right.
Or the, Other than that,
That would be the
or you
ideal,
could take that out.
that would be the
Shed.
ideal, that would be the ideal place.
Okay.
Yeah, I think, you know, thinking outside the box as far as anticipating whatever we can at this point, as far as electrical needs in that whole area would be good. Any other questions? Okay. Sure.
The scoreboard, softball field,
Borough softball.
if they haven't. Last year they ran it, but then it was,
We tested all the equipment prior to the season. I'm not sure who's operating the equipment. I'm just trying to be honest. I don't know. A lot of times people get thrown into running scoreboards that might not know the operation of the scoreboard.
well, there hasn't been anybody even up in that, they have to go up into that little building, right? So that, hasn't even been anybody up.
Yeah, it's first of my knowledge that it hasn't worked because I know it was on our spring work order that I know we tested all of them, baseball, softball, soccer, track.
I assumed, I know that it's not our field.
No, we actually got it working for the borough because it wasn't working for a long time, and that's 2 years ago. There was, there's a transmitter out on the fence, and there's a transmitter in where it's operated from, and there's a 0 to 10 dial that it has to be set on. One was set on, I think, 1, the other one was set on 9. That's why it was never working. We have a pretty talented electrician here, had him go up and take a look at it, he's very thorough. Went through all the handbooks for it to see why it wasn't working, that's what he discovered. Like I said, that's the first of my knowledge that it wasn't working for anything this year. Really take a look at it. But I think, like I said, I'm not sure who's in charge of running scoreboards, but
Yeah, last year there was somebody there, I don't know who, assigned them to do the job, but then other times there'd be somebody there, but the was working. That was last year. This year there has been nobody.
it's not a piece of equipment you just say, go take slow with that, because it's not gonna work because no fault of theirs, they just don't know operate it. And it is a sequence operation. But yeah, I'll check it out.
I noticed that somebody hung a sign up on that, the fencing around the home of the lady dog.
They have
I
another,
liked it. It looks nice. I haven't seen that done before.
yeah, Chris would give that to us to hang out, we hung that up for 2 weeks ago, and he has another one to hang up out in the outfield as well.
I'm checking on the scoreboard.
Okay. That dog. A lot of people are like, what is it?
Yeah, because they didn't use a scoreboard there for the better part of 10 years, so it didn't have to work.
Oh, my
And like I
gosh.
said, about 2 years ago. Flag was pulled by the borough leader. Place because something is wiring or something wasn't checked it out to make sure that there wasn't a whole lot wrong with it.
Thank you.
Any other thoughts or questions? Okay, now we'll go to number 5, courtesy of the floor for anything that you wish to discuss.
Merle Schweitzer. I just had a question about the fence. This is a citizen's question about the fence and why the fence by the Johnson house. I mean, for years and years and years, now all of a sudden we need a fence up there. So I'm just asking, why do we need this fence?
To prevent the business there.
What's precipitated this?
Well, I would say it's because that business there are parking on our property. So if we're gonna be making that, once that Johnson House is gone, making that into parking for people coming to games and things like that, we don't want to have cars that are being serviced by a business there on our property. Then we don't. Right, them too from,
Kids or our parents are going to start doing that parking there, that's, they can't go beyond that point, and it's a barrier, so not beyond, to go
their property.
beyond their property.
Well, this fence beyond the property line
Yes, there's no
and
setback.
the property, it's a unique situation there because the drive, the paved section is part of the right of way to that, whatever that drive is. I don't know what the name of it is. But, so the right of way issue and the fence would somehow separate the right of way from the property owner and the public, and in doing so, prevent the neighbor there from using the school property as a parking area? Would that?
I don't know what you mean.
You're putting up the fence, again, why? But one of the reasons it appears is that the neighbor encroaches on school property and parks his vehicles on school property. By installing the fence, that would stop, right?
Right, and it
There'd
would
be no more
prevent-
parking, no more problem with the neighbor, the garage, they're parking on the school property.
Right, yes. And like Mary said too, from people that are going to events there that will be parking on their spots where they want to park cars for their business, that belongs to them.
So the cost, okay. So what's the estimated cost for that fence? 5,000 to 6,000. So somebody might ask, why all of a sudden we need to put a fence up there? I'm just, speaking from that.
Right now, we don't have, it's not used for parking well. Our intention is to take that house down and use it for parking, so we want to protect ourselves as well as them, and that we know where that property line is.
And stop the encroachment, the problem.
Both directions.
Right. Okay, okay. This is not on the agenda. At the Salisbury School, we had an air monitoring station installed 3 or 4 years ago. And I just wondered what the status of the contract is, whether it's time to remove that monitoring station or we should continue the monitoring station or what. It is in the left field of the baseball field there.
It's my understanding, they're there monthly to check it. So it's being used regularly.
I know it's being used, it's monitoring the air situation. I just wondered if we've gotten any feedback. I think that, what is this, DEP or Pennsylvania, who's monitoring that? It's Environmental Protection Agency, but every week somebody comes in and double checks, checks for the readings or whatever they check on. I know that, and they drive over the grass and so forth and so on.
Is it just checking the air, like within the area, outside air?
It's in front of Salisbury Elementary down by the road. It was put in to monitor air quality because of
The gas company?
gas companies. And they do monitor it. They do come and take readings on a regular basis. Now, if the concern is them driving over the grass, Mr. Wall took care of that. They park in the parking lot, the gravel lot. So I don't know if you get reports, but they are monitored.
I don't get reports. I get reports from Transco Williams Gas every time they turn off their wells. Never got anything from DEP as far as bad or good.
They were just there today.
He's there quite often. What he does is there. He spends some time inside, probably collects information, passes it around.
So when you say they're there testing it, is it that DEP testing it or somebody from the gas
They're
company?
reading the reports.
Yeah.
They report to them to basically monitor that compressor.
And DEP pays the school district, what, $100 a month rental? Is that correct? I'm just questioning the need for that now, because we're not finding anything. It's taxpayers' money. And it was controversial in the beginning. And there were some hard feelings created between the school district and Williams. They weren't happy about that. And I know we had several work session board meetings and a lot of questions about it. And it was controversial. And then, so it's still there. And we're not getting any reports. And it's just a question of whether, if it's not serving a purpose, why keep it there? Why not remove it?
Well, if they're paying a
That's
rental
something to
fee,
look
how's
in.
it costing the taxpayers money? How is it detrimental to taxpayers if they're paying a
It's
monthly?
not a local taxpayers, it's tax money from the environmental protection. Environmental protection is paying us, I guess, $100 a month for the use of the land. But the request for their monitoring came from the former superintendent. It came from the school district. It wasn't because of complaints from the public or anything like. It was just a thing with Wenrich, Dr. Wenrich, because when she visited the gas company on a PR visit, it was brought to her attention that by Williams that periodically they released gas into the air. And she got it in her head that's going to contaminate, it's going to go into the schools. And we couldn't change her mind. And engineers even talked to her and told her that once that gas is released, within seconds it dissipates into the air. And it's not a problem. And we're told that if you want to check the air quality, you need to put your instruments inside the school, not out in left field. So anyway, I just it's there. I just bring it up. It's a matter to think about, maybe.
Thank you.
Bert Francis, 1425 Locust Street, Jersey Shore, PA. And I've only heard about half. Well, I forgot to put my hearing aids in, so I've only heard about half what you folks said. So I might be asking questions you already answered, maybe. I don't know. Back to item A on the list, HVAC SERS project update, et cetera, on that item. So that's a done deal. I understand that's a done deal, cut and dried. You're going to go ahead with that for the cost of $2,563,000. Is that accurate or not, that cost?
That was what was voted on last Monday. That's the cost of the installation and any additional equipment that they brought up since the last vote.
That's total project cost, in other words. No?
No, the board approved 1.1 million in December
For the equipment.
for the equipment.
All right. We got some free money, correct?
2 million.
Yeah, we got 3 million free money, and 2 million of that was directed to this project,
Correct.
correct? Now we're up to 2 million 560-some thousand dollars.
The total would be 3.6 million. The total project cost would be 3.6 million.
Okay, 2 points, so, I just wanna
Right.
cipher out of there, how much money was free money in that 2.5 million versus how much did we have to take out of capital projects to do that project?
Okay, the total project cost is 3.6.
Oh, yeah.
2 million came out of federal money. Federal funds, ESSER.
So there's no tax money, local tax out of our budget coming to pay for that project?
2 million was paid for by the
Okay.
government.
I'm up on that, I'm up on
The
that.
other 1.6 would come out of capital projects.
And so it's not gonna cost local taxpayers any money, it's gonna come out of those federal funds that we were reimbursed, correct?
2 million of it, yes,
Just $2 million of it.
yes.
I've been on board all along with, my question is, where's the $560-some thousand coming from?
Is that coming
I
out?
think you answered that. Capital projects.
Yeah.
Capital projects.
Oh, fund balance, I'm sorry, not capital projects. We identified fund balance. You're right, Mrs.
Out of
Thomas.
fund balance. So we did take some money out of our fund balance to pay for this project then, right?
Correct.
Correct, okay. Now, so everybody should know that. We're doing a project for $2.5 million and so on and so forth. The government gave us $2 million towards that, and we're gonna pick up the tab for the rest of it. All right. Now, all the other projects that you've discussed and talking about doing and so on and so forth, all of that will have to be funded through the school board or through the school district. The only free money we're talking about doing anything is up here at capital A. Everything else you've discussed and talking about, repairs, maintenance, upkeep, all that, that's gonna come out of our capital funds or capital projects. Or we're gonna have to borrow money, or will that be decided after you folks take this up to the board level?
After this committee prioritizes what Hunt has represented or suggested, plus any other projects that have been on the table, which I think are all incorporated in the Hunt report. So that total list, we will prioritize, the committee will, as a result of administration's recommendations as far as
Yeah,
priority.
I understand that. I think I'm on board with what
Right.
the game plan is as to what you're gonna do. And it's important to me that you would do that, because that list that Hunt's provided is a pretty long list. And that's getting up to how many million, 50, 60 million, and all that. We can't consider doing that. And
Right.
we have to go into that list and pull out what we call emergency, necessary, and future. You're gonna do all of that. We're not gonna address every item on that list.
But then, at that point, then we'll address the funding part.
Okay.
Now, how much it can,
So it would make sense to me then, we're currently paying on what we reduced our debt from, what, 3.5 million a year down to 2.5 million a year. Is that where we are now with our debt?
Mm-hmm.
Would it make sense to get all of our debt paid off before we go jumping into a bigger debt such as 20, 30, 40, 50 million? I don't think so. But anyway, you're gonna have lots of discussions on that before we get there, correct?
correct.
All right, thank you.
Anybody else from the public? Any other business to discuss? Thank you for all attending. Do I hear a motion to adjourn? Meeting adjourned.
Notice next meeting, May 18th
I'm
at
sorry.
3.
Yeah.